Hey YouTube, Charlie with NHORC here. Today I'm going to be doing a build on the TANQ FPV drone by LetsflyRC. This is a brand new freestyle drone frame that's just came out. It features super thick arms for those of us who are concerned about crashing and needing to do lots of repairs, as I am new into FPV drones. That sounded like the perfect thing for me. So what I've done is I copied all of the parts from LetsflyRC's ProSpec build on rotoriot.com, other than the video transmitter, as I need to use a DJI O3 air unit to work with my DJI 2 goggles. So this is my first ever drone build, so please take that with a grain of salt. I'm not going to be giving out a ton of advice here because I don't have a lot to follow. I'm going to be pretty much following the video from Rotoriot and LetsflyRC on how to install this, but I'll be, kind of talking here and there. Maybe I'll find some things along the way. Maybe I'll screw the whole thing up. Who knows? So come along for the ride with me, and let's get flying. Let's build a freestyle drone. Alright, so following along with the build order in the LetsflyRC Rotoriot how-to, we put this plate here. The screw goes through that hole through the arm, and then you take the next plate, which is this one that has these press nuts in it, and you place this over that as well. So you've got this scalloped section lined up right here. Then you take a standoff and you just thread that on, no Loctite at the moment, and we thread that on like that. Now you take another arm and another screw, you slot the arm through right there, and you pass the screw through the entire setup. Now it's a little fiddly work, so I can pivot that whole frame away. I can do this so I can see what I'm doing right here. I can then pass that screw through because I can see straight through the hole. There we go. And then what I gotta do is I gotta back it out just enough to slide the plate over, and we're back through. There we go. That works pretty good. That's not going to work on the rear two, but we've got the front two in. Now we're going to do the rear two, which is going to be the same thing. So that's already very very rigid, and we only have one screw in each. There's not a lot of wiggle there. That's really nice. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is put the M3 by 14 millimeter screws through the base and into these press nuts. So these are going to go right here. And you're just going to basically one in each of those. Like so, and then we'll just give those a little tighten. I'm not going too crazy yet because I believe we need to Loctite these. Oh yeah, that is now rock solid. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is remove these two standoffs one at a time and replace them with our camera mount. So I'm going to pop these two off, or this one off first, one at a time. I'm going to leave the screw in though. And then this is going into aluminum. So now we need our Loctite. Always give your Loctite a good shake. And we're just gonna put a dab on right there. You don't need too much of this stuff. I'm just hand threading it in the bottom. Alright. There we go. And now I'm going to pop these guys out, or back them out a little bit, and add Loctite into the hole. So I've backed it out, but it's still in there. I'm going to hold the screw in with my finger. Just put a little dab of Loctite into that wash nut. And then thread it back in. And that's that. I'm going to go all the way around doing that. Alright, I've got everything Loctited up. I will note that in the video he says to grab the standoffs and put them in. Be very careful, as there are two different sizes. So there's a short and a long one. The long ones specifically, I believe, are going to go right here. These short ones are what you need for standoffs, because if you put the long standoffs in the back and then you lay the top plate on, it sits cocked up like that at an angle. So next up, we need to start doing some electronics. Now, sorry about that. I am missing one wire that is en route at the moment, as I thought that the DJI O3 Air unit here came with the proper wiring. However, I spoke directly with Shawn of LetsflyRC when I was asking him some questions about antenna mounting on Facebook, and he's a super nice guy, by the way. He's so willing to help. It's excellent. He told me that although this pinout is like the same size, basically, this is not the right pinning for the F7 T-motor. So yeah, we're gonna start getting this into position. Now this DJI O3 unit does have big stickers on both sides that say make sure to install it in a way that it's well ventilated, so it doesn't overheat. So we will do our best to keep that in mind. It's a very nice little, oh sorry, my focus is off. Learning the new camera still. The very nice little piece of hardware, same exact camera that's on my Avata, and it has, I think that's a up arrow, so this would be up, I believe. And then we've got our stock antenna, which I'm gonna have to cut this black plastic piece off of to make work with the little antenna holder that LetsFly has provided on Thingiverse. Alright, so I'm going to go a little off path from how Shawn with LetsflyRC is recommending the install order because of a couple reasons. First off, with this DJI transmitter, it's got these super tiny screws in all four corners, which are the right pattern to go into those holes. However, I don't have any screws that small, and the existing ones are way too short. And if I use those holes, I can then use some standoffs to give it a little more height, which will help it cool better. So I've got some 1.5 millimeter, I believe they're 1.5 millimeter hexes that are going to come in. So I'll be waiting on that. And this is not the right cable to attach to my flight controller. So I could probably depin one and make a new one, but I just ordered one from Rotor Riot. So I'm going to do some of the other steps for tonight while I'm out here. I'm going to mount the camera up, and I think I'm going to try to decase this part of the antenna. That way it's more flexible to work with the antenna mount. So we'll start with the camera. So these have right and lefts on them, so you just pop them in right and left. It doesn't matter which way they go. Pop those in. They sit in there like so. And you take your camera. The DJI one has a DJI logo on the back. I'm very, very much hoping that is the orientation you need to install it, with those words up. There was an arrow on it, but the arrow seems to be conflicting with the lettering, so I am not quite sure about that. And then you just gotta kind of wiggle this into these TPU gummy mounts without, you know, breaking your expensive little camera. Which is a little tricky. It seems like kind of scrubbing it back and forth is gonna be the most ideal way. And you gotta do that till you see your holes come into view. So these are the screws that came in the O3 Air Unit cam. They already have a little dab of Loctite on them, so I don't need to worry about that. There we go, and that is our camera mounted. I don't have a preferred angle yet. That is probably, I would say, I don't know, 10 or 15 degrees, which seems just fine. We'll leave it there. It's fine. I don't know what I'm doing here yet. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to try to do, and this may not be successful, is I want to take this shroud off. So I'm going to grab a set of clippers and try to do this without breaking my antenna. So these are nice sharp clippers. Now I know you can take the top off and pop these off. I'd prefer to not do that, and I think I can just kind of slot this up here and do one of these. Yeah, that seems to be working. If I can get most of it off, because the main reason I don't want this right is, so this is going to be, this is the tail of the quad right here, is even if I like crank these wires around and stick it on top, it's still going to have this big long thing. I want to use the mount that goes on, so I got to be able to turn the wires sharper. To look at what's under this, just looks like more of that wire. That's good. There we go. Yep, that's what we want to see. I'm going to snip right here. That's most of it off. And let's see how close we can get with this. So this is where, okay, so we can pull the wires out even further. And let's cut the opposite side some. See if I can, yeah, alright, there we go. So if you're trying to decase this antenna, it's not too bad, as long as you've got some of these guys, which if you've bought the Rotor Riot toolkit, you have, because this is what I am using. Although I have all of these tools, I wanted a set I could just leave in the drone bag and not have to worry about fetching out of my RC toolkit. Alright, that's pretty good. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit more. So, the next out of order step I'm going to do is I'm going to put the motors on, because I've got time right now. Having the motors on won't impede my ability, I don't think, to work on the rest of this kit. But it will let me get at least something done at the moment. I've got all of my motors unboxed. So these are the Hypertrain LetsflyRC custom motors. These are 2306 1850 kV. These are what were on LetsflyRC's Pro Spec build. So we're going to start installing these. So the motors do come with some screws. However, you need 12mm screws, and the ones that come with the motor with these large button heads are about 10mm. So you don't need the ones that come with it. you need these guys. If you're using the quad skids from Rotor Riot, you're totally good. I am going to be using the 3D printed ones. I figured out how to print 3D printed TPU. So I've got the standoff spacers as instructed, and I've got the TPU foot pads. My 3D printing of TPU isn't super smooth yet. I'm still getting it dialed in, but it works. It's functional. So we're gonna put this through and put that spacer on. Oops, I'm gonna move some of the other motors out of the way so I stop. Don't ding them. Don't want that, and they're very pretty looking. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera a little bit. And these all do need Loctite. Take one of our motors. Actually, I guess I didn't need to Loctite that quite yet, but let's see. I'm just hand threading it in at the moment. Thread that guy in. And the big thing that he talks about on his video, which if you're doing this, please watch his video first and foremost. There'll be a link to it somewhere. Is to make sure these screws don't go all the way through and puncture the wires. So you be very careful. Since these are all aluminum, I am starting them with no tools whatsoever to make sure I get that threading proper the first time. We don't strip anything. And we're going to tighten them down. I'm going to do gentle at first, and then we'll crank on them a little harder once we make sure we're not protruding through, which we shouldn't be. So, looking in here now, I don't see the screws sticking through at all, which is excellent. That's exactly what we want to see. I'm going to crank them a bit. They're still not sticking through, which is perfect. That TPU, you got to remember we've got the TPU washer in there, so that is flexible and that is gonna squish, and if you just crank them till you are completely flush, it's not gonna do anything. So there we go. Spins nice and smooth. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the other three on. Alright, I've got all four motors mounted up. They all spin. I'm not touching with any screws anywhere. And it looks great. Green and purple wouldn't be my first color choice, but it looks good when it's themed. So I'm gonna slap the arm guards on now, because I don't see any reason not to. And these should just pretty much slide right in. Now, in the directions, these do call for PETG for the bottom. I don't have any PETG. I've never used PETG, so I just went ahead and printed them in 100% infill PLA. And then this part is, you know, your TPU. So these should just click right on, and then this should just slot right over. It's whoopsie. This is definitely a reason why you should probably not have your DJI transmitter not connected. Yeah, it's just getting it over that last little bit, and I don't want to put pressure on the motor, obviously, or the wires. Wonder if I think the front, okay, yeah, the front was a little too deep in. There we go. And that's one on. Now I'm going to go around and put the other three on. Alright, so we've got the custom skid protectors on here from LetsflyRC. They look really sharp. I've got them zip tied on just to make sure they never come off unless I want them to. And we'll see how the PLA holds up. All right, it's not PETG, but I mean, although this thing is an outdoor toy, it's not going to be living outdoors, so I don't think I'll have any issue with that being PLA. Yeah, so that looks really slick, really nice. It's the next day from the previous clip. I still don't have my proper wire for the transmitter to go to the flight controller, but I can start installing the ESC into the frame and doing some of that soldering. So I did get myself a Rotor Riot practice solder pad here. I am a soldering rookie. This was really nice. I used some 14 gauge wire I had laying around, as well as some of the extra wire from the other plugs that came with the flight controller that weren't going to get used. So I did a little bit of practicing over here. It really helped me kind of understand a little bit more about soldering, and I think I did a pretty good job. I'm not going to give you any advice on soldering. If you need soldering advice, please go somewhere else to someone who is more knowledgeable. But if you think my soldering joints look like crap, let me know. If you got tips or anything, let me know. I am using this 80-watt Weller soldering iron I got from Amazon. It seems pretty good. It doesn't tell me exact temperatures, but it's got a knob on it, which, it's most of the way up. So the first thing we got to do is put the capacitor and the lead on. So what we're going to do is I've got the XT60 connector. I've got this capacitor. I had bought some leads that had 1,000 milliamp capacitor built on, but they were built on up here, so that was somewhat of a problem. So we're just gonna go with the one that came with it and this capacitor. Basically the issue was that the capacitor wouldn't fit through the hole on the upper deck. So we're going to use a little 470 milliamp capacitor here. That way it slots into the frame just as instructed. So I am going to do this first. It looks like these are actually pre-tinned, potentially, which is nice, or yeah, they have to be, because they're, they definitely appear to be pre-tinned. So those are just gonna go right here and there on each side. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. So this is very clearly labeled. This is the F55A Pro 2 from T-Motor, 4-in-1 32-bit. So as you can see, they're clearly labeled plus and minus. Mine didn't actually come with these gummies in. They were in the box, so I had to push those through. If you are doing that, use tweezers. It makes it a lot easier. So these are going to go right here. And then, oops, sorry, I'm out of focus. These are going to go right here. And then I'm going to solder the capacitor onto the back side per the instruction from Shawn from LetsflyRC. I got to give a huge shout out to him. That dude is totally willing to help people he has never met before. I shot him a message on Facebook in the Rotor Riot group, and he answered like right away, helped me out with a couple things I was confused about, in particular with the frame, but also even just some stuff about setting up your ESC here. Because one of the things I was confused about as a rookie here is, although there's huge pinouts available online for the flight controller, there is not for the ESC. So obviously this is plus and minus, that's easy. However, the rest of these tabs aren't marked beyond being for motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, and motor 4. So I was like, well, each one has 3 wires. Does it matter which one's where? I couldn't find anything that would tell me that. So it doesn't matter which one's where. It'll do it on the board after the fact. So I'm going to get to soldering. Okay, it was a struggle, but I've got these 2 on there. Now I need to try to get the capacitor on there. So that's going to be fun. I'm very nervous about this now. I was feeling good about my soldering skills until all of that just occurred. So one side of the capacitor has a little negative on it, and we need it to sit down in a notch of the frame a couple millimeters. So what Shawn did from Rotor Riot was flip the board over and attach it to the bottom 2 there. And so we'll basically put a couple little bends in it like that. Just like that. So hopefully this round of soldering goes better than the last. Alright, that went better than the previous one. I've got a little cleanup to do there, but there we have it. Certainly some of my worst work. But it is what it is. Alright. Alright, so now that we've got the power lead soldered on and the capacitor, we can install the ESC into the frame. So I've already put 3 of these screws in. Sorry about that. I've already put 3 of these screws in. Real simple, Loctite them, and then go up through the large holes on the underside into the nylon press nuts. Real simple. We've got all 4 in. Now, he does call for a 1mm 3D printed spacer in addition to these gummies. I don't have those, but I do have these little guys that I bought from Rotor Riot. And I think they will work. They may be a little too tall, but if I cut a couple of them in half, they should almost certainly be the right height. So we're going to try to cut them in half and see how it goes. Snip, easy. Okay, yep, that will work. Just dandy. We go this way with the heat shield up and the capacitor sitting down into that nice little notch that's made for it. I'm going to bend it a little more. And I've got the wire in here at the moment for the air unit. We'll see if that's where it ends up staying. I think it kind of has to. Alright, we're not quite to the bump stops. There we go. There. This piece goes up through the top deck. Our capacitor is sitting down, deep down inside the frame. I've got my power lead on, I've got the capacitor in. I'm now going to attach the ESC to the flight controller. So the cable that it comes with is marked FC on one side and ESC on the other. So that's pretty straightforward. And the labels go up. So the other thing you can do is you can see the notches go towards the top as well on the side of the pin. So I'm just going to gently slot that in. You want to make sure it's not crooked, so it currently is crooked. There we go. I've got the other side already in. And so I was watching the video. It does appear that you are supposed to run the flight camera wire under the ESC. He just said that you don't want to have the lock washers or the capacitors touching the lock washers. You do need these smaller spacers that come with the T-motor kit. I'm going to slot those right in. And now this should just drop right on like that. Excellent. Now obviously this wire that I have here goes to right there, so that's an easy thing I can plug in once I get my 1.5 millimeter screws, which should be in tomorrow, and I don't know when the cable's coming in, but it should hopefully be soon, and I'll be able to get this mounted all nicely. Alright, I did buy a buzzer, but this appears to have a buzzer also, so I'm probably not going to put the buzzer on, because I don't really know how to do that. There's a lot of very fine looking soldering involved, and I don't know where to mount it, so it was like a couple bucks, whatever. Alright, so moving on. Alright, so as noted in Shawn's build video, you don't want to use the lock nuts that come with the T-motor stack. You want to use these little nylon ones instead. As they are nylon, I don't believe they're going to spin off. I'm going till I can just barely feel the tops of the screws. You don't want to go too hard on these. And I'm going to check my spacing on the bottom to make sure it doesn't appear I have any capacitors touching the press nuts. Alright, so I'm almost out of things I can do without the screws and the additional cable, which should be in the next few days, but I can solder all my motors on. So these motor wires are definitely too long to begin with, right? So they go, you know, if I stretch them, right, I've got like an inch. So I've already trimmed this one down, and my plan is to just zip tie it to the frame and then have a little curl right at the end. So I'm going to solder this first one on, and then I'll come back. I'm not gonna film it after the disaster that was this guy, but I'll do one, and I'll come right back. Alright, I've got these three on there. It went pretty well. Had a little trouble with the last one, but overall I think they're pretty good, so I'm going to zip tie those down to the frame and do the rest. Alright, so at this point I've gotten all of my solder joints done. By the end I was getting the hang of it, so some practice just was the trick. I think I had my soldering iron set way too hot initially. I think that was the issue. If you know what I was doing wrong, please let me know. I would love to know. So I think that's about it. I'm going to zoom you out for tonight. Theoretically, this should blow up if there's going to be a fire. Put this over here just in case. Oh, no fire. Yes. Okay, no fire. It's now Saturday. I have the final wires. I need to complete my build, and I have a really cool special treat here. So, as you know from the previous section, which I'll probably skip over a bunch of in post, I installed the DJI Air unit into this 3D printed holder for it, and then I used LetsflyRC's little stock DJI antenna mount. So, I've been talking with Shawn of LetsflyRC, and he has printed an all-in-one unit. He designed this as a prototype. And this is designed specifically for the tank, and these slide right over the standoffs and hold everything in one simple piece. So we're going to be pulling this out and then installing this and putting our final wire in. I have booted it up. I've started programming it in Betaflight. That's very complicated. I'm following Joshua Bardwell's How to Program Betaflight videos. I'll put a link to that playlist in the description if you need to do that. I'm not going to film that. I probably shouldn't even be filming this because I'm a rookie at it. But yeah, so I'm going to pull this off and then we'll install the other one. Alright, so I've gotten all the previously 3D printed parts off at this point. So first thing I'm going to do is pop this incorrect DJI cable out, and yellow was on the left. Pins are up. Okay. So the pins are up. So I'm going to plug this guy in. There we go. And that should be that. So with this bracket, that wire is going to have to go over the top as well. And Shawn told me that this is just a press fit. So although there are screw mounting holes on the bottom, if you additionally want to put more screws through, you shouldn't need them. It should just press fit right into place and be held in by friction. Since this stuff is so rubbery, your mount or your VTX shouldn't go anywhere. Oh yeah, that is a super clean fit. So to install this, you are going to need to have removed your antenna. So if you don't know how to do that, all you do is pop the two back screws on the top off, and then I use a very small screwdriver to pop them free from these. You got to be careful with that. You don't want to mess that up. And actually, I guess you don't have to remove them here. He did leave a small slit so you could pull them in like so. So I guess I will do it outside because it's a little easier. So I had to remove them to get them out of the other one, so I had to remove them regardless. Sorry about that camera bump. So all you do is just make sure they're lined up, pop them on till you hear a little click. Be careful not to miss. There is a small pin in the center of these that needs to go in place. Alright, once that's back on, you're just going to take the little top plate and put your screws back in with your very, very tiny, very miserable screwdriver that everyone hates. It's just, nobody likes dealing with screws this small. It's not fun. We're back assembled here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass these VTX wires through the middle. I don't think this will hurt it at all, but it will keep them in place. So I'm going to drop the antenna wire through there. Well, actually, you know what, we're gonna do that. Push that in, and then we need to coil those wires somewhere. And let's see how this goes. We might need to, you know what, it would probably be easier if you mount this inside this knot. Well, it's not in the chassis, would likely be substantially easier, but because it's already under my flight stack and my camera is installed, we need to figure out another way. I think probably, what we'll do is we will pop this whole thing off the standoffs. Alright, so it's off. It's much more flexible now. So I'm going to stick that through there. There we go. Okay. Almost there. Now, if your print is cleaner than mine, which it probably is, because I don't know what I'm doing with TPU. There we go. Alright, so now we're in, and we've got that little coil of wire. There is a small gap in there that looks like is just about perfect for probably coiling that wire up, but I'm going to drop the whole thing over the standoffs again first. Okay, this wire to my receiver to my camera is now kind of bound up, and I just pull from the front to straighten that back out, and then I'll fix it in the front afterwards. So we're on. We've got this nice loop, and we've got our VTX. So we are going to plug the VTX in. It appears to only go a single way, and if you're not a rookie to this, I'm sure you're yelling at me because it's like, of course it only goes in one way. I'm new. Leave me alone. Alright, so you don't want to like kink wires, especially little ones like this. I'm doing my best to kind of like loop them. And then I could either with these probably just lay them flush there, or I could try to cram them in there, but I don't really want to kink them that much. So I think I'm just going to leave them right like that. So, and then this guy, I think with the pressure of the top plate on, the wires will hold that in, and we won't have to worry too much about that. I'm also going to be a little OCD and make sure my DJI is up. So we are now on to the final step, which I've been looking for, well, the final build step. So now I'm just going to, so you've got the strap on. I actually did, there is a way LetsflyRC recommends you do this for maximum non-ejection of your battery. So what he wants you to do is take your strap, feed it through the end with the lettering that says TANQ, and pull it even till you get the buckle resting on the board, and then, oh wait a minute, and then pull it the other way through. We do have another thing we have to put on. I almost forgot. We've got our sticky battery pad from Rotor Riot here. This is just a fancy sticker with rubber on one side. Get this open. I'm not opened this yet. So, let's get the nice Rotor Riot logos on one side and some 3M tape on the other. So this battery is going in the, I believe it's called the toilet tank configuration, where the battery is going to be going across the quad. Shawn from Let's Fly has a number of reasons why he does this. If you want to know why, go watch his video on the build here. I am simply doing as Shawn has instructed. So I'm going to snip it that way. Oh, actually, I'm going to leave that bag back because I'm going to have enough to do it again should I need to. Alright, and then I got to snip it this way to clear that. So we're going to just take off that other set of logos. Like so. There we go. So we're going to stick this on. So this should now fit perfectly between it could be a little longer technically, but it'll be just fine. And then you peel off the top layer, and that's also a little sticky to help keep your battery in place. That thing is going to get gross. Alright, so with that on, this goes through, and through, and for now we're going to pull it nice and tight. So we got to worry about the clearance on the bottom here. Alright, so with those on, let's get this final piece on, and we'll see if the extra bit of pressure here holds everything together. You feed your XT60 through, and you just press it on and put the screws in. So, for these screws, I should only have a few left. Yeah, these are going to be our, I believe these are 8 mils. Don't quote me on that. Thread locking them because they're going into aluminum, all 6. There we have it. You can see we are resting on top of one of the 2 ports in there, but I don't think we're touching any capacitors with the Velcro. Our wires are nice and bundled. Let's see how this antenna feels. That is not coming out. There's no way that's coming out, so that's good. If you were really concerned, you could, I suppose, throw some additional heat shrink on it, maybe, but I don't foresee that coming out. If that comes out, you've lost your antenna, I think. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to throw some electrical tape on the arms just to protect my wires. I wish I had some maybe 3D printed clips made out of this stuff to go over them, but black electrical tape will work. So, that's been the TANQ build. As I said, I'm not going to show the process of programming in Betaflight. That's very long and tedious, and I'm learning and making errors and stuff. The main thing I'll say is that if your board isn't being detected by your computer, it's probably your USB cable being power only, because micro USB is power only, or well, lots of the ones that come with your phone are power only, and I went through 3 of them before I found one that had data. As soon as I plugged that one in, popped right in Betaflight. So, if you've enjoyed this content, please give me a subscribe. Please like. If you get any questions or comments, throw them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm a rookie at this, so I don't know of how much use I'll be, but I think this is one of the first build videos for the TANQ that's not from Shawn of LetsflyRC and Rotor Riot. So I hope you've enjoyed it. You'll see some flight videos of this thing pretty soon. If you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you may have already seen some. It'll be a bit before the flight videos of this get out, just because I've got a lot of other RC stuff backed up that needs to go out, and I try to publish one video a week. So thanks for watching. Have a good day, everybody.